Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.
Good evening and welcome to episode 68 of Football Then and Now, a nostalgic look at football, and we also cover current topics of football as well. And here's my co-host and cousin, Chris, and we're back together and we've got a special guest this evening, so fire away, Chris.
Just before we invite Sam in, you know, we said about retro. Well, I've gone retro for you, mate. But the Pillock, instead of putting Romario on the back, put Ronaldinho on the back. And I'm like...
Chris, that's a 2002 away shirt, that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but England played them when they wore this. And I think Ronaldinho scored that free kick in this very same one. Hence why I didn't want his name on the back. Anyway, I digress. Our guest today, you may know him as a true adventurers on TikTok and on YouTube, but we know him as Sam Leonard.
Yeah, all right.
Good Villa fan. You know your stuff. That's obviously why I obviously messaged you. I've been listening to some of your memories, and obviously the Luke Nillis one just reminded me of Premier League Manager, the game, and that's where I found Luke Nillis. You know, as a
Premier Manager, that one, yeah.
Premier Manager, yeah.
Oh, I never did that one. Do you know what I did? I did Ultimate Soccer Manager. Did you have that one?
Too. Yeah, I had that one.
That one was good because you could build up your stadium, and I really liked that. That was like really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I spent way too much on those games. I never graduated to Championship Manager, which I think is good because I think I don't think I would have a job and a house and a wife and kids. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Would I be happier? Probably. Yeah.
Well,
probably would.
Yeah, be less stressed.
I would have achieved stuff. I used to play a lot of FIFA career mode.
Yeah.
And I found it really difficult because I'd achieve so much. Do you know what I mean? You achieve so much on these games, and you build these teams like dynasties. Like just iconic teams within your living room, but you can't tell anyone about it. People, how have you been? What have you been up to? And you want to say like, well, actually, I've just, taken Villa from the Championship to the Champions League, and and I've built a whole youth team. Class of '92 is nothing on me, but you can't say that, can you? Because people think you're a complete div. So, you just go. Not much, just working, In
the back of your mind, it's there, mate.
In the back of your mind, you're like,
still did it.
I'm a king.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The power of Football Manager and all.
I'm still there.
Managing games, yeah.
I've been there all the way through, and I'm still on it now. I was actually playing it before I come on.
Was you?
Yeah, I'm a manager of St Albans at the moment, and it's very it's an interesting season, let's put it that way, without making me sound like a really dreadful manager.
Is this Football Manager?
Yeah, Football Manager.
So, what Championship Manager used to be Championship Manager? Yeah.
Yeah, the company split, I think, in 2005. I think, and they went separate ways. But Eddie,
is it not a lot of work? Like that was the only reason why. Because I've thought about, maybe I should get it. But it looks like a lot more work than the ones I used to play. Mine was pretty much just you buy players, you sell players, you make a formation and that kind of thing. But don't you have to like run the youth system and like?
You can, but you can also get your assistants to do all that. And you can
really?
Focus
you can
mainly
get a team.
on the first team. And
Yeah,
if you didn't want to
good.
sign any youth players, you could get your director of football, your technical director, and leave them to it with the scouts, and they'll just pop up with one.
Harry Redknapp style, basically.
Well, yeah. A couple of bones in the corner as well for him.
Sam, do you know what might suit you? But Chris goes mad at me, right? Football Manager Mobile, which is on Netflix.
No.
So it's not. You're saying you don't want it as in depth and like the old games. I would say get it on the mobile phone, mate. I'd say, but Chris,
really?
Chris goes
Does he
mad.
think that is like you're a Philistine?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get told off all the time by Chris, by several other people that play the full game. You have to play the full game, but if you just want to pick up and play, not to
Yeah.
the extent of the full game. I recommend it, but Chris is going to shoot me down here.
Yeah, I prefer the full game. I like to scout. Like, as soon as I set my team out, and say if I'm a bigger club, obviously not St Albans because I can't scout because I've got no scouting team or a department because the St Albans won't give me the bloody money for it. So when I've been a big team on it, after I've done my tactics and I sort my training out for the entire year, I then set my scouts up and every continent, and then I pick the age, and I'm like, right, this is what we're doing. I want to find 18 to 20 or 15 to 20-year-olds in Africa, Asia, North America, South America. And then I let that go then. And then they'll bring me in, well, we found this person from Nigeria, and he's got the potential to be, we'll say, not say one of the best in the world, but potentially close to it. As long as you train him correctly, then obviously he can reach that level. But I'm thinking is get him good enough to sell him on and then make the bucks and then buy someone else to do it again.
Can I set up a career where I like dip in and out, take all the glory, and then can I delegate the rest of it to you? And then you can like, I'll pay you like
for a fee.
You know, yeah, for a fee. That's it. Like, yeah, you could probably do that. Like, you just look after a. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got to go on holiday with my family. Can you just look at, like watering the plants? Like, can you just look after my
yeah, no worries, mate.
My championship manager while I'm away.
Sam, I'd love to ask you. Chris obviously found you on TikTok. You're a musician. You've done loads of tracks, but you did one about your beloved Aston Villa, of course. So yeah, formulating that and putting that together. I'd love to hear about that because Chris obviously put me over to your content, which is amazing, and obviously your football-based content as well that you do.
Yeah, well, I've been a musician for a long time and played in bands like lots of people, and I've had kids and work and just grown up life responsibilities, really dealing with my parents as well, which take up more time than the kids, to be honest. But I was like, I thought it was a nice project. Sometimes when you're a musician, it's nice to give yourself a project. Like, I'm going to make this kind of song, or it's kind of like you give yourself a brief. Because otherwise you start to just think, well, I could write a song about anything really. Or it might have been that I was like, I didn't want to write a song about all the stuff that was going on in my life. So I thought, Villa song, I'll write a Villa song. And it was a bit like, I really like Hibs. Hibs are amazing, and they have Sunshine on Leith. And there's this amazing clip of Hibs when they won, I think it was the League Cup, maybe like 5 years ago, something like that. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever seen the clip of when they won the League Cup? It was like they hadn't won a trophy for ever.
Stubbs was the manager for Hibs, Stuart, at that point.
Yeah.
That's right, it was Stubbs, and John McGinn was playing for him at that point. It was Stubbs, yeah. And they anyway, they won, and this video, it is just, if it does not get you in the feels, then you're made of stone. It's unbelievable singing this Proclaimers song. Proclaimers, yeah. Sunshine on Leith. And I just thought, I wish Villa had that. And Villa have never really had that. I mean, have Everton got? Have Everton got a song? We've got Z-Cars.
Spirit of the Blues. That we
Spirit
still,
of the Blues.
which is still, sung, amazingly today, and that is the song, isn't it, Chris?
Is that what you'd sing if you won? You won the FA Cup, like, is that what everyone would sing?
Forever Everton as well, to a lesser extent. Is that they're the two? They're the two for sure.
I do like Z-Cars though. Z-Cars is a brilliant walkout. He's very cool.
Yeah, but it's a difficult thing now, Sam, right? When you mention Z-Cars, it's hard enough to think another team, i.e. Watford, share the same.
Do Watford have it as well? Yeah,
but only because I think it was Elton John, like, I don't know, did he like it, the show or something like that? But obviously, Z-Cars for Everton means a bit more because it was a Scouse TV show, you know what I mean? And it just sort of, it meant well for Everton. So I never got like, it's not like it's your own by yourself. So that's what frustrates me when we talk about Z cars. Is it should be just us having it, not someone else. But then I'm just very biased in that way.
If you've got I think if people said Z cars, everyone would say Everton. Everyone knows it. And I think the Goodison celebrations has probably nailed that down as well. Even though the PA broke, didn't it? I was watching it.
Of the last game.
The PA broke down, didn't it, while they were trying to play Z cars, which is typical of, like, if you've ever been anywhere where it's about to be sold or knocked down, and they're like, no, we're not fixing that. No, we're going next week. Like,
it can only happen to Everton, mate. We don't do things like normal people. It's like,
To be fair, though, Villa played the Europa League conference when we played PSG. They play instead of the Champions League anthem. Everyone lined up, and they played the Conference League music.
Yes, I saw it live. Did he get sacked? Did your PA man get sacked for that? Because it was like
I don't know. I felt so bad for him, to be honest. Imagine if you're at work, no. Have you ever messed up at work? And then it's like, oh no, what have I done?
It was etched on them players' faces because they did it the season before, hadn't they? So they knew. It was like, oh no.
What's going on?
But everyone in the stand was like, "Oh, this is typical Villa. Can't we just have our moment, without some kind of balls up?" But anyway, back to the song. So I wanted to write a song that was like that, and so I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and I had about 10 paragraphs. Like Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah is meant to have like 15 verses. It was like that, and I just wrote down everything I could think of, and that I was like, Villa, and then I thought I've got to boil it down because I wanted it to be able to be sung by people who've had a few drinks on the whole end, and so I got it down to a verse and a chorus. So yeah, it's got a bit of like the chorus is the commentary of Villa's goal in the 1982 European Cup final. So it's Brian Moore's commentary is
legend.
The chorus.
Absolute legend.
And oh, it must be is what he says when Peter Wiv scores his goal. And really, Peter Wiv almost missed. So I think he's going to go, oh, it must be. Has he missed? But he did score, thankfully. But that was the idea. And then I kind of sat on it for a little bit. And then I put it out on TikTok and on Twitter because I played at the fan zone. Randomly, they messaged me and said, do you want to play in the fan zone outside the ground? So I played at the fan zone, and then I released a clip of either of us playing it was involved in it. And then loads of people were messaging me going, oh, what's your song? What's the song? What's the song? And it went mad on Twitter, and it was really, really good. And they did play it in the stadium when they were warming up for a Conference League game, and to me that was like I can die happy. Like they've played it in Villa Park, that's brilliant. and then I started. I thought, oh, I should, I'm quite a big TikTok user. I'm a bit of a TikTok addict, and I've got a bit of a background in broadcasting, like radio and stuff like that. Okay. So I thought, oh, I'll start to promote the song. I'll start like just talking about Villa because. People say, don't they, just do what you would be doing anyway. And what do I do anyway? Just bloody go on about Villa all the time, and if you're the same with me, which I'm sure you are because you've got this podcast, like my knowledge of Villa is like between 1994 and 1997. I know everything about Villa. It's like burned into my brain, and not just everything about them, but my memories of being a Villa fan at that age are so intense. Like I don't know what your brain is on when you're like 10 or 11, but it's just like fused in there. It's like same thing, like wrestling. I could tell you every bloody match from 1997. Do you know what I mean? Probably because I watched it 100 times and there was no internet, so that was all I could watch. But so that's what I thought. Well, I'll just talk about that then. And what you realise is that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people at the same age as you, and they were just doing exactly what you were doing, you know. And you see it now when you've got kids. Like my kids go to school, and they're all into exactly the same thing, and they know everything about it. And that's what it was like then. So you know, I just did one about Savo Milosevic, and you know, everyone's like, "Yeah, I was exactly the same." Savo, 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 and Paul McGrath, and all of that. So it's very, I find it very, very easy and very fun. It's not work for me to like go on TikTok and talk about Villa, and people then comment on it, and I love talking about it. Like it's that's what I said. Like the one I did about Luke Nillis, that is pretty much like if we went to the pub and I had 3 to 4 pints, I would probably be, you know, you'd hear me like going, "Oh, bloody Luke Nillis, do you remember that?" Da, da, da. Sam's going on about Luke Nillis again, and obviously all my friends have already heard it 100 times. Or Paul McGrath in the my big one is Paul McGrath against Italy in the 1994 World Cup. Like if I've had a skinful, I'll be going, "You don't understand. You know, they invented defending, and Paul McGrath taught them a lesson." And, you know, that's what I'll be like, you know. And so I just thought, oh, I'll just do that on TikTok, and it's great. Yeah, I could do it all day. As you can probably tell, I could talk about this kind of thing all day.
That's what we like. That's what we like.
Yeah, but that's a good thing, though, isn't it? You meant I watched your video on Savo Milosevic. One thing I think, and I'm if I'm correct, you will correct me anyway. When you sold him the first time, didn't he come back to the club after you sold him because he didn't want to leave Villa?
Not that I remember. I might be wrong.
I remember he didn't. Unless I'm wrong, but I can vaguely remember in the 90s when you sold him, he came back because he didn't want to go. He sort of hid back in Birmingham.
He left under a cloud. He fell out with was it Brian Little or John Gregory? Oh, I can't remember now. But he fell out with the club because and the fans. He spat at the fans in an away game. We were losing 5-0 to Blackburn, and obviously the fans were giving him all kinds of stick, and he kind of spat towards the fans. It's such a football thing, isn't it? Like spitting in football it's the worst. You know, like, oh, you know, what's that player done? Oh, he's killed loads of people. Oh, that's not very good. And he spat at someone. What? He did what? You know, like you can't spit in football, can you? It's like the lowest of the low. So as soon as he did that, he was like out the door. And I think I kind of replaced him with Collymore, and then Collymore came, and he wasn't quite right at the time. And yeah, it's just, I mean, Villa and Everton, very, very similar clubs. I'm sure Everton have got the same kind of. It's like this, you know. Yeah, we're nearly there. And we get there, and then there's some kind of balled up, and you go back down again, and you've got to start climbing this. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure Everton have got these. I could give you 4 or 5 sliding doors moments for Villa, where it's like, if we'd done that, we'd have been, you know, in the elite. I'm sure Everton, you know, you qualified for the Champions League, didn't you? And then you didn't get into the group. That's one of them for Everton, isn't it? And like, there's players you should have signed or you shouldn't have sold, or, you know, like, I don't know. It's hard to remember, but Villa's like Robbie Keane. We should have bought Robbie Keane in 1998, 99, something like that. Coventry wanted 3 point. Is that how ingrained it is? Coventry wanted 3.75 million. They wanted 3.75 million for him. And what was it? Wolves wanted him. Yeah, they were haggling over 3.75 million. Doug Ellis said no, 3.5 million, and that's it. And then he moved on. He didn't go to Villa, and then like 4 months later, he went to Inter Milan for like 12 million, and then went on and on and on. And if we'd signed Robbie Keane, all day long, we would have been up there winning trophies again, you know. And
the last piece of the puzzle.
It is, and I'm sure have you guys got Everton kind of, you know, where you go, oh, if only that had happened, you know.
Countless, mate. Countless. We've ballsed up probably an encyclopedia of ballsed up transfers of players we should have got, and we ended up with someone overly priced. Moise Keane will give you a late, like a current one. And it was dreadful, and you could have spent that somewhere else, going down to Championship. See, with you, Ollie Watkins, we were looking at him at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's pulling triggers, and I think sometimes, you pulled the trigger, and we, sat back and watched him turn into a fantastic striker.
Lookman as well, didn't you? Isn't that
Yes,
weird?
he did, yeah.
Has he dropped off again now? Has he dropped off again now, Lookman?
He wasn't as prevalent last season, I don't think. Obviously, the previous year when they won Europa League, beat Leverkusen. But even on the way
That game,
to that final,
he was outrageous, wasn't
brilliant.
he?
Coop Myers as well, top players they had really when you look back. But yeah, it was crazy. Had all the potential in the world, you could see it. But I think he was very young. I think like his head got turned, didn't it? I think if we'd had him a bit later on, he might have stayed a bit longer.
Fell out of Koeman, didn't he, Stu?
Yeah, well, Koeman was a cancer. It didn't work. It did not work, that one, but that was just the situation we were in at the time.
Yeah.
Did Allardyce come after Koeman?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Silva?
No, it was Koeman, then Allardyce, and then it was Silva.
I remember Allardyce had Lookman as well, and he didn't quite. He wanted a big bloke, didn't he? He wanted a big bloke instead.
But he spent money on Cenk Tosun, who again, my God, couldn't hit a barn door. Had probably the worst hairline I've ever seen. And the worst thing is, Sam, right? We announced it when we were getting beaten by Liverpool on telly.
What?
Yeah.
What? During the game?
I remember it, and I'm looking at the telly, and it says, I've no signed Cenk Tosun. And I'm like, we're losing, I think, 3-0 at the time. And you're at Anfield, and you're like, why?
All them signings were bad. Morgan Schneidlin, over 20 odd million for Morgan Schneidlin. And he played League One in Southampton years before, didn't he? United, it didn't work out for. There might be a player in there. He was shocking. He was poor.
Did you get him from Man United?
Yeah. We paid ridiculous money for him. Sold him for next to nothing. But Chris, this is what got me and Chris down for so many years, because he would just throw in 20 odd million, which was a lot at the time. Yannick Bolasie, through no fault of his own, he got injured.
Yeah.
There was
glimpses as well.
There was glimpses of Bolasie.
But did you loan him from us? You
loaned him from us, yeah.
Oh, we loaned him from you.
That's what Stuart's talking about then, yeah. When we signed him and he had an injury, and Stuart said he came back and he wasn't the same player, was he, Stuart?
Before that,
he was good, wasn't he?
There was glimpses of what he was doing at Palace, for those 2 or 3 years where he was really good for Palace. But it's just a comedy of errors. But we're coming out of that now, aren't we, Chris?
Yeah, I'd say so. The signings so far, what we've done, Barry coming in from Villarreal, the 22-year-old French player, right profile, very tall, very good in the air, much better apparently than Calvert-Lewin, so I've read. So don't quote me on that. I'm only what I've read. But he's pacey, he's strong, and he's, And I think it's great because it'll work with Beto, and you can work with them, interchange them, and he can learn the league. Not like
good, isn't he? I like Beto.
Well, you know what Beto is. It's the love, isn't it? When players try 110%, and they're not always going to get it right every time. But he had that purple patch in his year when Moyes came back, and he was like, "This guy's
give him the ball, get the ball to him."
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. And then Charlie Alcaraz, who we've now gone on to sign, of course. We had them on loan. Them two are telepathic in the number 10 and number 9. They link up so well. And he's getting that ball straight to him when he's in the box, isn't he, Chris? And
he prefers that, doesn't he?
He missed chances. We did slate him in the first half of the season, but fair play to the lad. He came good in that last half of the season. He was really good. And as Chris said, it's Moyes. It's the Moyes effect. Yeah. He knows how to manage players and get the best out of the players.
I think so Calvert-Lewin's gone.
Yeah, he's free.
What do you think about that then? Because
you go, Stu.
Would you have been on big money?
17 goals in 4 seasons. When Dyche was there, Sam, he was fit more under Dyche than any manager. In all fairness,
really?
One thing I will say, whatever was going on, it's just not happened again, has it, Chris? And even on the back end of Dyche's reign, the injuries were coming back in.
Yeah.
17 goals in 4 seasons, and he's had, bad spells of injuries. I'm not disputing that, and scored that goal against Palace that kept us up as well. Me and Chris were at the game. Thankful for him. He wants 6 figures a week, and we can't be shelling that out on all the players. Which wages have been a problem as well, Sam. Players were getting paid too high. They were just throwing money at them willy-nilly. How Mashiri was an accountant, made his fortune from accountancy, I don't know. Because they were just throwing money like nobody's business. It didn't make any sense. It just did not make any sense, some of the figures that the players were getting. But they're trying to come away from that now. Your top end players like Pickford, he's on the money, he's on for good reason.
Worth it.
Yeah.
They've had to restructure it, haven't they, Chris? The salaries.
Yeah. And I think it's right. And I think with Calvert-Lewin, Sam, is like we don't him going when we're not angry at him. It's kind of like you need to go away and reform and find yourself. And we need to go and find ourselves a striker that's not. I know all players are not consistently fit, but someone who's going to be there, someone who's going to score, make a difference in the game. Calvert-Lewin had bits and pieces towards the end of his Everton career where he looked formidable and he really stretched defenders and they hated going up against him. He could jump higher than the majority of the players, but like his headers were great. He could score, but one-on-ones or anything with the ball to his foot and he was going towards the keeper, he was awful at. And
because I always think this about players, sometimes they're like they're like nomads, aren't they? They kind of go from club to club to club, and it's like they're trying to find the right environment again. Because I always think Ross Barkley is a really good example. Do you know what I mean? I thought he was done, really. And then he kind of went to Luton, and it was like, it's almost like he kind of settled into himself, and he went, you know what? I can look after myself to this extent, and this is what I can do, and this is what I can't do, and maybe I'm not. Do you know what I mean? Did it take him 10 years to realise he wasn't Wayne Rooney? Do you know what I mean?
Possibly.
Could you get that thrown at you, and then you're still trying to get there? And I don't know if he just kind of went, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to be Luton's midfielder, and that's all right. That's fine. And he did a great job of it. And then he's come to Villa, and he's had a couple of injuries, but he's kind of like settled into himself, or which probably people do is when you're just a person anyway. You forget. It's mad, isn't it? You forget how young football players are.
Yeah.
When I was 20, I mean, bloody hell. I wouldn't trust myself to make a cup of tea. and these guys are like, but, they're 24, 25, and you think, well, he should be really, mature. Like, I didn't know who I was until I was 30, I think. Really?
I'm still thinking I'm almost 40.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of, and I think that. So maybe Calvert-Lewin he'll go away from Everton, and I'd have him at Villa on the books. But I don't know how it works. Do these players do they just hold out for the money? Because some of them are. I don't understand how some players are unemployed. Do you know what I mean? Is it that they would rather be unemployed than be badly paid, or like? Do you know what I mean? Like, because if it was me, I'd be like, well, I'd rather have 30 grand a week and have an opportunity to play than be sat here going mad. So, but I don't know what he's like, or is it their agents? Do their agents?
It could potentially be the agent, couldn't it, Chris? But there's been talk of this.
He changed agents again, didn't he? Towards the end of the season.
It's just crazy. It's been. He wouldn't come down on his wages. That was a big thing I'd heard, and that was getting spoken about. This has been talk of the town for months and months and months. About is he going to sign? And you just felt he was always going to go. I always had that in the back of my mind. But it's a risk. United heavily linked with him. Newcastle need another striker because obviously Isak wasn't as injured as much last season, but with them being in the Champions League as well, they need someone they can rely on.
I'd have him at Villa as a backup striker.
Would you have him? Would you?
100%.
Yeah.
I think he's a great player. I mean, but it's the difference is what people from outside of your club think about your players to what you think about your players, and sometimes the people outside the club are right and you're wrong. And sometimes the people from outside the club have got it completely wrong because they've only seen him on Match of the Day and they think, well, what do you mean he's really good? But you're like, no, that was 4 years ago. That was 4 years ago. So I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's a great striker. When Ancelotti was in charge
Yeah.
and, stand between the posts and all of that. That was the narrative, wasn't it? Ancelotti's just got him playing. Hey, just stand there. You'll be all right. You'll score, And he had that great run. I think me and probably loads of people who aren't Everton fans, that's what we think Calvert-Lewin. He's brilliant. Oh yeah, he's had a couple of injuries, but that was and you're like, no, that was 4 years ago. And we're like, really? Oh,
Yeah,
it's
right.
Mad. Has he not played since then?
He's
Oh,
not-
right, okay.
Do you
Emery-
not
So I think.
God, all three of us went then. Go on.
Emery could get him playing. Look at Rashford. Rashford was the litmus test. Out of favourite, United didn't want to know. Came into you guys, and we've had a couple of Villa fans on who are friends of ours on the show. They've just said, "Oh well, he's played for you, but just I don't. You're not going to get him, are you? he's not going to be coming, is he? After you're not getting into the Champions League, the lads were saying about the loss of revenue from the Champions League was a big thing.
He's another one, really. I suppose it's like if he really wanted to join us, then he'd drop his wages, wouldn't he? So I'm not that bothered about Rashford. I really, really like Rashford as a person. And I was really, really chuffed when he came to Villa, and I was glad that he did well because I think there's all these Man United players, and they're like, oh, why do Man United keep buying these toxic players? And you're like, no, it's the club. He's like rotten. They're not randomly just buying dodgy players that suddenly go somewhere else and do well. It's the club, So, so I was really, really pleased. But I'm not that bothered about him staying. But what you were saying about Emery, like our faith in Emery is so high that he could buy anyone, and we would be like, he'll get a tune out of him because he's so good, and that's what we think. Like, so at Rashford, he'll be like, oh yeah, Emery will 100%, get a tune out of Rashford. I mean, look at John Duran. He's gone off, and Emery got the tune out of him. He'd managed to deal with all his nonsense, and so you think that I think that about anyone. Who's the other player I was saying that Villa should buy? I can't remember. But Calvert-Lewin, I'm like, yeah, we'll take Calvert-Lewin. Emery will get a player out of him.
As a free,
100%.
As a free transfer, Sam. He's gonna have his suitors, isn't he? I would say, but it's the wages as well.
You got to hear about Leeds, no? Did you hear about Leeds? They went in and spoke to him, and he still wanted 6 figures, and they went,
yeah.
Nope.
Really?
Leeds are going to have to be damn careful because they've only just come back up, haven't they? They're going to have to be really shrewd because they don't want to be yo-yoing, do they? They do not want to be yo-yoing. You don't want to be a Watford. You don't want to be a Watford, do you? From years ago. There's plenty of other teams that yo-yo.
It's a shame that Leeds went down that first time. Really, it's a shame that the Bielsa thing didn't last because that was brilliant. Having Bielsa there and having that kind of cult figure, and they spent so long trying to get back up.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't stay up, I was gutted when they went down because I like proper clubs. I like Everton, a proper club, Villa, a proper club, Leeds, are a proper club. I like it when proper clubs with a proper fan base and a real history. I like it when they're in the Premier League. I'm quite snobby. I don't like these. I mean, I do like Brentford and Brighton, but come on, where were they in 1904? When football was proper. That's what Villa fans are like. We're very like. Well, pre-war, that was when football was really good, when we were in charge, and so we're so snobby and like, how old's your club? Only 120 years old.
We do that though as well, though.
You newcomers, we don't. Who do you think you are? With your money ball, So, yeah.
How are you thinking going into this season? What are your thoughts and feelings? I mean, the fact that you managed to juggle the Champions League, getting so far. I know that final day of the season was tragic, really, in the fact that you've dropped into Europa League. what your thoughts and feelings going in, because you played so many games last season and to such a high level and getting as far as you got into the Champions League. Like me and Chris, like Villa were like the second team.
Yeah.
You know, especially in that Champions League run, it was amazing, and everyone wanted Villa to do well. But what do you see going into this season? How
we
you
did you
feeling
a
about
favour at
it?
the end of the season, by the way, Sam.
What'd you say?
And we did you a favour at the end of the season by beating Newcastle, so we took the pressure off you.
Good old Charlie Alcaraz.
I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. I'm still. Do you know that thing? Because it's the end of the season, you can't play another game, so you're still annoyed. You're still annoyed about it. You know, sometimes you're doing the washing up and you go, oh, you know, like. But it was a brilliant season, and it was the Champions League was properly special. And like I said, Villa and Everton, very similar kind of clubs, and I never thought I would see Villa. I never thought I'd see the Champions League anthem being played at Villa Park. And that first game against Bayern, I was standing there, and just before they played the Champions League anthem, the whole place went boom, dead quiet. It was silent because everyone was like, they're going to play the Champions League anthem? Like, or we felt like someone was going to walk in and go, all right, hold on, everyone. So there's been a big mistake. You're not meant to be here. Get to the bloody Conference League, you know. And it felt like that, and it was just, and I spent an absolute bloody fortune, because I don't live in Birmingham, I live in Norwich, so I spent an absolute bloody fortune following Villa through that Champions League. But to be there, I just had to. I mean, the conversation I had with my wife, where she was like, what are you doing? You've lost your mind. And I was like, no, you don't understand. It's the Champions League.
Yeah.
Villa are in the Champions League. Just like you'd be saying, Everton are in the Champions League. Like, you don't understand. This is like, you know, this might never happen again. And I thought, and I didn't really think that, I think, speak to a lot of Villa fans, we didn't think we'd get in again, because we got in. Why? Because Chelsea messed up, Spurs messed up, Man United messed up, Newcastle messed up, probably someone else I can't even remember. But and all we needed was one of those teams to get their act together, which they really should have, and that's what happened. Really, in the end, it was Chelsea and Newcastle. They got their act together in the end, and so they should, because Chelsea especially. I mean, I don't know how they're doing it, to be honest. You know, I wish my account was as good as theirs. Hey,
rules don't apply to Chelsea.
Apparently not. No, Lord knows. But so I didn't think it was really going to happen, and that's fine, to be honest. I think we're about where we should be. We are a Europa League level squad, and but the other thing is, our manager is amazing, and the other thing is, probably just like Everton, I would step over my grandmother for a trophy. I just want a trophy. You know, watching Newcastle and Palace last year, it was just like, I'm so jealous, so jealous. I just want a trophy. So it was brilliant going through the Champions League, and it was special and it was amazing. But just give me a trophy, give me a League Cup, give me an FA Cup, and obviously Emery has got this record in the Europa League. So, you know, if we win a Europa League, you know, that is absolutely fine by me. You know, it would be incredible. I would have took the conference when we were in the Conference League. There was like, you know, there was that argument which I never really like, which was, what would you prefer if you could only have one, qualifying for the Champions League or winning the Conference League? But if you asked me, I'd say winning the Conference League. You know, when West Ham won that Conference League, you try telling them that it's a Tim Pot European trophy. They were having the time of their life. And that's what I want. That's what I want. I want to be crying like those Palace fans were. You know, that's what I want. That's what I want. I want to be experiencing that, really. And it was special. It was brilliant, the Champions League run, and it was special. But I don't know. I don't know what younger people think. They might think, oh, football's about getting in the Champions League and playing at the high level, and I don't know what they think, but me and people my age are just like, give me a bloody FA Cup so that I can die happy. Do you know what I mean? If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, we've won the FA Cup, and at least I've had that for all the years of mid-table sludge. Do you know what I mean? So that's what Villa, and also we because we have this manager that we know is amazing. He's just a brilliant manager. We also think, God, we've got to get a trophy while he's here. We've got to get that trophy, because what if he leaves, and then we'll have to get a normal manager again like everyone else and sack him after 2 years, and bloody Steven Gerrard and all that nonsense.
I'll mention his name on this channel.
So yeah, we just, Villa fans were just, please give us a trophy. Please, we need it. Newcastle have had one now. Even Spurs have had a trophy.
I know.
Spurs, like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Mad, innit?
Come on, we must be worth at least a League Cup, something like that, you know. So that's what Villa fans feel like in general. You know, they're kind of apart from the people that like to talk about PSR and revenue and stuff like that, they're boring old f***s, aren't they? You know, so. But that's what I think for next season. Yeah, definitely. Just give me a trophy at all costs. You know,
Chris,
we feel exactly the same, Sam. Me and Stuart are lucky enough that we have witnessed Everton win their last trophy in 1995, and after that, it's just been, well, tumbleweed, isn't it, Stu?
a final against Chelsea 2009, semi-final against Liverpool 2012 or 2013, if I remember rightly.
Finals.
Andy Carroll scoring. That wasn't good. That wasn't good, but yes, close, but yet so far. It was. We scored too early against Chelsea.
11 seconds, wasn't
it? Louis Saha, yeah.
Didn't Martinez mess up a quarter final? Roberto Martinez. I seem to remember
two semi-finals we had on his last year, both against both Manchester clubs, and we played probably one of the worst Man United teams I'd ever seen under Van Gaal, and we completely bottled it. Man City, we beat them quite comfortably at home, and then Ross Barkley made it 3-1 on aggregate, and then we just crumbled, and they won, and they went through.
Because it's funny the way clubs think, isn't it? You know, this whole like rotating players for the cups. Like, do they know how much we would worship them if they just won the League Cup? Do they not understand like how pathetic we are? Like, we would buy all the shirts, all of the bloody memorabilia, you know,
DVD.
Like the blood in our veins we'll give you. Just win a cup for us. And they're like, no, we really want to concentrate on finishing 8th this season. It's like, what are you doing? It's like 5 games to win the League Cup, you know. And so it absolutely does my brain in. And I see other clubs do it. Obviously, Palace and Newcastle have won a cup now, but there was years when like Newcastle were like resting players in the cup, and I was like, I don't understand. You got these rabid Geordies who would like just kiss your feet if you won the FA Cup. Who cares about the bloody league? You're not going to win it. So what are you doing? Like, you know, I'll just never understand it. I think that's a big disconnect between people who run football clubs and football fans, and it's just like, I don't know. And I know the money's different. I know you don't get any money for it, but it's like, why are you even doing it? You know, you're not going to win the Champions League. You're not going to win the league. Try and win one of these cups. You know, what we got to do is beat, you know, Man City's second team in the quarterfinals or something like that. But
it's difficult in itself.
Which is difficult in itself.
I get you.
Yeah.
I get you.
We share the same desperation.
The pain. We do. We most definitely do. I'd sell all my children just for a
Absolutely.
One's not enough. I want to be older and
my God,
understand football as I do now, instead of how old we were in '95 when we won the FA Cup, because I appreciate it more now than I did then. But
it's hard to tell, isn't it? Because you know, we're similar age, and that was Villa's last was 94 and 96, and like I'm still obsessed with those two League Cup wins. I'm just and so I don't know if I think I would do emotionally. I would appreciate it more now, but that level of obsession at that age is so intense. I had the program. So I didn't go to the game, the '94 one. Someone at my dad's work went, and he managed to get me the program. And I used to just sit and read the program from the match. Like, what a sad case, but that's what I used to do. It's pre-internet or
Sean Teal, Sam.
Sean
If you
Teal.
want to go back, yeah, I
Sean
remember him in the
Teal.
final when he had Muller as a sponsor on the shirt,
Yeah,
the
the
Asics
tash.
shirt back in the day.
Yeah.
Nostalgia, which is
Did
what
he,
this
Yeah.
show is
he
big
didn't play
on.
for Everton, Sean Teal.
He was at Tranmere. I've got a
Tranmere.
funny feeling he was at Tranmere, and he managed Burscough more latterly. He didn't play for him, but I remember having BBC Radio Merseyside on, and
Is he from? He is from Merseyside.
yeah.
Yeah.
He was at Tranmere, if memory serves. I'm pretty sure with that one.
Because we beat Tranmere in the semi-final, which is probably my favourite ever Villa game, and they beat us 3-1 in the first leg, and we took them back to Villa Park, and it was this epic kind of semi-final game, and Mark Bosnich should have got sent off for bringing down John Aldridge, but he didn't get sent off, and then he went on to save 2 penalties in the shootout. But I didn't know that Tranmere were from Merseyside. I didn't even know Tranmere were, to be honest. It was just
They wouldn't
the
like
team
you saying that, by the way.
And then is it not Merseyside? But that's what
They were not like you say that.
what I was leading up to is what is Tranmere's relationship with Liverpool and Everton like? Is it like West Brom where Villa don't care about West Brom or but West Brom hate Villa and we're just like, oh, go away, like we don't even care about you. Do you know what I mean? And what's the dynamic of
It's
Liverpool, Everton, and Tranmere?
It's basically they're on the Wirral, and it's where our family are from. It's where our mums are from.
Right.
And my granddad was from there, and then you got to go through the tunnel to then get to Liverpool, basically. So they call them tunnel rats. They're referred to as tunnel rats. The people from the Wirral. That's what they go by. That's the word. That's the verbiage.
And is the Wirral like a more well-to-do area than Liverpool?
It's got nice areas. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's got really it has bad
bespoke
rundown
areas within it. Yeah, it really has. Yeah, there's nice areas on the Wirral to go and live and. Yeah.
There's a softer Scouse accent as well. It's not as strong.
That's it, yeah. Somebody told me about this before. They speak in like a softer lilt, don't they? But
Yeah.
but is it that Everton and Liverpool kind of team up to go, I'll go away Tranmere? Like, are they just
You don't hear
kind
from
of
them.
the little brother?
You don't hear from them. And that's not disrespect because obviously me and Stu still keep an eye on Tranmere because obviously it's where our mums are from and that was our granddad's team. Even though we secretly think he was an Everton fan, really deep down, but that was his team, so we still keep an eye on them and see how they're going. I think we've sent players there in the past, and we've taken like James Vaughan, who was a striker for us, but then he was the director of football there, and we brought him over.
Again.
We brought him over as like a loan manager, but in charge of all the loans and all the youngsters. But obviously he's left now. But I mean, I think we send players there because League Two is quite a good test for a 17, 18-year-old to understand the English pyramid and the football is outside reserves games.
You'll loan players to Tranmere, like.
Yeah, I don't think it does them any harm, and I think I think Tranmere appreciate it. I wouldn't send any of our crop now because most of them are crap, and that's why most of them have been released. Like Harrison Armstrong, who was on loan in the Championship, had glowing, and everyone loved him. Derby,
Are you guys too young to remember Everton winning the league? So what was it?
86, 87.
You were born.
We were
Two
born
in a
in
row.
80,
Did you win 2 in a row?
84. It was 84. No, 85, 80. No, 84, 85, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah.
And then they won 86, 87. 86, 87 was the last year. Yeah. And we won the FA Cup in 84.
Why? Because I've seen footage from that. What's with the trophy? you had a weird trophy, like a Barclays trophy. It wasn't the real trophy. Am I correct in that?
Canon sponsored the league, and the only reason we know about this
Yeah.
is because when we went on the tour in May to Goodison, we went and did a tour because couldn't get to the games because the tickets were just, you couldn't get hold of them like gold dust. And
Right.
the gentleman was telling us when Canon sponsored the league, the trophy didn't leave Liverpool in that 3-year span. It didn't leave Liverpool or Everton. They won it in that
Right.
3-year
Yeah. Yeah.
spell. And the trophy was in the cabinet, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah.
The Canon one.
And it's like was it a ball or it was like a different trophy?
Yeah.
I remember seeing the footage and I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, what's with the trophy? Like, why have you got this other weird trophy?
Well,
But
there you go.
So are you too young to remember that then?
Yeah, we were
before your
born in
time?
'86.
Mm.
We were both
So I was born in
86.
'85. Yeah, so you have a similar thing to me, of you won a cup in the middle of the '90s,
Yeah.
which was great, but you really missed the real success, which is the same as me. So and I find it mad as well that I used to watch the history of Aston Villa VHS when I first got into Villa, and it was all 90% pre-war, and then 1981, 82, and all of that. And I thought, so this is in like 1994, so this is 12 years after we won the European Cup, and I thought that was 100 years ago, 12 years. I thought Villa. Oh, do you remember we won the European Cup years ago? Years ago, and it was 12 years before. It's like, like Arsenal, the Invincibles. Is that 20 years since that happened? Do you know what I mean? Like the way time works. I thought Villa hadn't won anything for a long time, and I realise now that Villa had been European champions 12 years before. Like that's like 12 years is like. What's 12 years from now? It's like 2013?
Oh, don't say it, please.
2030? No, that's not good maths, is it?
Yeah,
What's my
yeah.
maths?
No, you're
Come on.
right. 2013, Sam.
So that's like, imagine if Villa had won the European Cup in 2013, and like when you were a kid, it would have been, oh, well, we won the league like 8 years ago or 9 years ago, and it's like, that's nothing. That's nothing. It's like Man United. What have Man United won? It's like 10 years since Fergie, so it's, I thought it was 100 years before, and actually, I was so close to the glory years, and I just missed it. Really, just missed it, and so it's kind of more annoying.
We can definitely draw parallels with it, both fan bases, can't we? In terms of just wanting some silverware in the cabinet, which hopefully.
Did you go into Europe? So did you go in the UEFA Cup after you won the FA Cup? Did you have a year in the UEFA Cup?
Yeah, no, well, it wasn't called. It was UEFA Cup.
Cup Winners' Cup.
Did you go in the Cup Winners' Cup?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
What did you do?
Played Reykjavik. Went and played Reykjavik. I remember having the radio on for that, and then Feyenoord knocked us out. We were knocked out by Feyenoord like at the time. So yeah,
we had these like UEFA Cup. We had this one against Inter Milan after we won the '94 World Cup, and we drew Inter Milan in the first round, and everyone was like, "Oh, what?" It was kind of half like, "Oh, we've got a big boy, brilliant. We're playing Inter Milan," and half like we're going to get knocked out in the first round. And this is when Inter Milan had Dennis Bergkamp, and we played them, and they beat us 1-0 in the first leg, and then we went back to Villa Park, and we had another epic match, and we beat them on penalties, and there was a pitch invasion. This is the first round. Nowadays, you'd be like, "Oh, it's Tim Pot. You had a pitch invasion."
Yeah.
But we had the video. There was a video called "The Italian Job" you could buy of Villa in the first round of the UEFA Cup.
That's mad.
But it was brilliant. It was great. European football, and it's only the first round of the UEFA Cup. Really looking back, but yeah, it was great. Great days.
Sam, you spoke about Paul McGrath, fantastic player, did amazing. I loved your clip about USA '94 actually.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise either that Niall Quinn was on commentary for that. I didn't know until it never registered. And I can remember the tournament. That was like tournament I first remembered. I could remember little bits of Euro 92, my dad watching it when Thomas Brolin scored for Sweden against England. But yeah, Niall Quinn wasn't in the squad, but yeah, your
How
clips
good
about
would
that
they have
before.
been? How good would they have been with Niall Quinn? I don't believe, because so I'm probably correct in thinking Aldridge would have been close to the end of his
He
career
was
by that point.
coming, he was winding down, wasn't it? It was his last hurrah, really, wasn't it? He probably went down to lower leagues, didn't he?
In fact, he was at Tranmere. Of course, he was at Tranmere. So that's where Aldridge was, at Tranmere, and Niall Quinn. Yeah, I mean, because that was pretty top tier Niall Quinn, wasn't it? In fact, he was leading up to his Sunderland days, wasn't he? At that point, and that was a great Ireland team, because that was it. That was the first World Cup I ever watched. I remember England San Marino. I remember that game.
When they scored early on, I had
Yeah.
teletext on, and San Marino went ahead. Ian Wright had to bail him out, didn't he?
Of course, I remember that. And that was the only international football I'd ever seen. And then the World Cup was on, and Ireland were in it, and I was like, all right. And my dad was like, "We're supporting Ireland." I said, "Why are we supporting Ireland?" He's like, "'Cause we're Irish." And I was like, "We weren't really Irish. Like, my granddad's Irish, and my dad's family's Irish, but I'm not bloody Irish, I don't like to claim." But at that point, I was like, "Fine, I'm Irish, brilliant, But we also had half the team was Villa, so it was Steve Staunton, Ray Houghton, Paul McGrath, and Andy Townsend. And as I said in the video, Andy Townsend won the League Cup, and he'd got like blonde highlights in his hair, like flash
I
or
remember
what?
it.
I bet Roy Keane was looking at him like, "You idiot," You think you've made it, But it was a great tournament, and a great run for Ireland. And do you remember the whole thing about the substitutes?
Oh my God, yeah.
The big round. In fact, wasn't it Aldridge in the thick of that?
Oh, it was all kicked off. I remember. Yeah.
He went full Scouse, didn't he?
Oh my God.
On the touchline to some American FIFA shirt. John Aldridge is like, he was like ready to lamp. Because I think the substitutes came off, and they didn't let the replacement substitute come on, and it was hot. Like, the weather was hot, so they were all like, and Charlton was like giving it to them, and these UEFA delegates, or UEFA suits, they must have been thinking, FIFA suits, they must have been thinking, Donald, who are these people? And they're going to kill me. It was great tournament though. It was really, really fun, and then unfortunately, I abandoned Ireland once Euro '96 started.
I tell you what, going back to Ray Houghton, Sam, the goal against Italy, what a goal! What a goal that was!
Brilliant goal. And do you know about the goalie? Pagliuca?
Yeah, Gianluca Pagliuca.
Who was my favourite goalie when I was a kid. I wanted to be a goalie. Well, second favourite behind Mark Bosnich, but he was a goalie who wore short sleeves, very glamorous back then. Goalie with short sleeves, and who's my favourite goalie, and he lost in that penalty shootout. Inter Milan, he was in goal, and but he made some great saves. I just loved him. Anyway, it turns out he is a Villa fan, die-hard Villa fan, and he's got a Villa tattoo on his leg, the Villa badge tattooed on his leg, because he loves Villa.
Why didn't you sign him?
I don't know. I would have been, first had Bosnich really, but that would have been my dream. Like, I love Pagliuca. So he got lobbed by Ray Houghton, a Villa player, and then he got beat at Villa Park. But the whole time he was a Villa fan.
That's mad. That's madness.
Great fact. Yeah,
You've taught us something.
Yeah,
you've taught us something there. A good tidbit of information, a bit of nostalgic info there, mate.
He's a Villa fan. If you ever hear Pagliuca, you can go, he's a Villa fan, Did you know that?
Yeah. He was in. Me and Stuart, when we were about to do our top three goalkeepers, and obviously that episode we haven't done yet, but I had Pagliuca in my top three of all time. That obviously that I've liked from the the earlier days to current. But yeah, he was in there. He was another goalkeeper, because I was a goalkeeper. You see, I like playing in goal. So yeah, I liked. He was just a cool sort of laid
So
back.
cool. He just had this such like he had
Yeah,
these like kind of floppy arms, like his gloves were very heavy, or like that he was like, oh, I've been forced to play in goal, and oh god, and it was almost like Morrissey in his movements, and he was like, oh, I just loved the way he moved. I thought he was so majestic,
It was
It was brilliant.
it was the who's who though, wasn't it? Angelo Peruzzi, Francesco Toldo more latterly. There was solid. There was some solid ones. Buffon, very young coming through at Parma, and then
So
to
young,
have the career he's had and the longevity he had, playing well into his 40s. It
unbelievable.
was the who's who for keepers in Italy, wasn't it?
I used to like Campos. He was another goalie that I
Yes.
liked. Was he
Yeah.
in Mexico?
Yes. Yes, he
Mexico?
was. Yeah.
And he had his own like bespoke
Shirt.
kits.
Yeah.
Oh, he was so cool. Another short sleeves and like, oh, it's like because before that, goalies in the UK were all blokes, weren't they? It was just, it was like who's in goal? Jim. Bob's in goal. Why? Because he's a big bloke and he'll bloody kick the ball as far as he can. And if you get a corner, he's going to punch you when the ref's not looking. That was goalie, wasn't it? Remember Les Seeley?
I do.
Les Seeley.
I do. Man United, and
He
then
was well known as
Yeah.
like he had this like
yeah.
eyes if say you don't come stand near me, I will rip your throat out. And that was like the way goalies were. So these foreign goalies, they were so like ooh
Another,
la la.
I've got another name for you. Doesn't get enough credit. Was at Lazio. You'd see him on Gazzetta Football Italia. Luca Marchigiani was another one. Doesn't
I
get
don't know him. Luca
called.
Marchigiani.
It's kind of gets left out the mix. He was a mainstay for Lazio in goal for years. He was brilliant. A name that you don't tend to hear about, but he was such a good keeper, so competent between the sticks.
I'll have to look him up because that I mean, obviously, Gazzetta Football Italia. It was just glamour personified, wasn't it? All of that compared to our kind of dour,
Miserable.
not in the probably pre-prem, our dour first division, and everyone in the mud, and over there it was like everyone was just, they're just like. It was as if they all had a fag on the go the whole time, like even during the match. Do you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
had this just attitude of like, come on, yeah, this is great. And I even like that the stadiums were half empty because it was like people couldn't even be bothered with it. Do you know what I mean? It was like, yeah, well, we'll set off a flare and that kind of thing. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Great days watching that. So glamorous,
We've spoken about Football Italia on this show.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
A hell of a lot. James Richardson is still suave to this day, and he's been doing the World Club Cup coverage on DAZN.
Yeah, he has, hasn't he?
His podcast, Totally Football Podcast that he does with The Athletic, absolutely brilliant. And
he's
and
the sharpest mind.
Unbelievable.
His comebacks.
Yeah.
He's so smart. He's
raspy,
so smart.
Raspy undertones, smooth as silk. That man when he's speaking.
Richardson. Love him.
Amazing. Sam, or actually, Chris, you can ask something before we close out. Just before we go.
Something. Thank you. Well, Sam, I want to give us a prediction for the Premier League. With Villa, obviously.
Villa
we can say provisionally because I always say to Stu, I don't like making predictions until the window's closed and I know who we've got.
That's true.
So, before we close the show out, and obviously we'll play the music video for yourself as well, give us just an idea of, where you'd like to where you think, and just pretend that these transfers have come in. So just have that in your mind for the second one.
As I said previously, give me top six and a trophy, and I will. You can kind of. You can say, Sam, you're not allowed to watch football anymore. You're not allowed to talk about football anymore. But it's all right. Just give me top six and a trophy. Just give me that trophy. That's all I want. That's all I care about. I'm only 40, but I don't want it to start dragging on much longer. Come on, So no, fifth or sixth in a trophy is probably about par. That is about as good as we are because there is bigger teams than us. They are bigger, not historically, but they are bigger and they should be doing better than us. And we've got a great manager. But the truth is, fifth or sixth is about where we should be in the league. Anything better than that, if we get back in the Champions League, I mean, brilliant. My wife won't like it, but it'll be brilliant, So yeah, top six in a trophy is just fine by me. Thank you very much.
Can't go wrong with that at all.
That's achievable off the back of last.
As well. I don't ask for much. I don't ask for much.
I know, mate. We feel it. We feel it too.
We don't ask for much.
And also with the Europa League, if you win it, it's the avenue into the Champions League as well.
There you go.
So if you finish
Europa League, yeah,
you've still got, and I could see you contending. And as you said about Emery with Sevilla, he's got a pedigree for European trophies as well. So for the 100%. Man to do it, and do you know what? They were so good last season in the Champions League. They really were. So entertaining, the games. Great for the neutral. And
also,
it's amazing.
We've done this whole thing, and Everton trying to get John McGinn. You can do one.
I read that today. I'm surprised.
Yeah, David Moyes is a big fan of John McGinn. Yeah,
of course he is.
Surprised.
He's super John McGinn. He's like, I will cry the day that John McGinn leaves.
He plays every week for you. I was like, crikey Moses. If that was ever a thing, like we'll have him.
No question though. Because obviously, I know he's a hard-hitting midfielder, good passer, good striker of the ball. Hasn't got fantastic pace, so that makes me think McGinn in the middle, like anyone with a bit of pace.
And that's not a position we're lacking in, really. In the centre of midfield, he's got options. Do you know what I mean? He really has.
I wouldn't say no to McGinn, by the way.
Sorry, Chris.
I wouldn't say no to McGinn. This is not me saying no.
It's
not just about how good he is, though. It's about what he brings. He is like a force, and he's just like, and he's a sound guy. So in the dressing room, he's great. On the pitch, he's great. He will pull you through games. The amount of games where it's like John McGinn is like, no, we are doing this way. You're all coming with me, and he's just, and asking his Scottish fan the same. He just sticks his backside out, and he's like, like that PSG game when, John McGinn was the driving force in that PSG game because he was just like, right, we're having this. Come on, let's have a go, and anyway, you can have him in 2 years when he's a bit over the hill, but not now. Thank you very much.
You need your gritty players. You need your 110% players as much as you need flair. That he's the true embodiment of that. Anybody can see that with him. Even for Scotland, when you watch him for the national team as well, him and McTominay.
Yeah,
they are absolutely brilliant for Scotland. Like they've been brilliant for Steve Clark.
Is McTominay the most skillful player on the planet? No. Would Man United have done better if Scott McTominay in their midfield? Yes, 100%. He, and that's getting Napoli fan now. It's not all about that. And you go back to Fergie at Man United. But they weren't all cultured world beaters. He had Darren Fletcher, Park Ji-sung, Ronnie Johnson, David May. He had people who were there to do the ugly work, and you need players that are going to do that, and too many people don't understand that, really. So
Henning Berg obviously came from Blackburn. He brought him in, didn't he?
Yeah,
going further forward, John O'Shea, workhorse. You have to have your workhorses as much as they were.
Is a great shout. John O'Shea is a great shout. Yeah, exactly. Probably John O'Shea
gets left out the conversation, but he was needed in that system. When they were fighting on all fronts, United, and they were like arguably the top team in Europe, weren't they, for so many years?
They can't all be Rooney and Tevez and Ronaldo. You need your John O'Shea there to stand there.
Yeah, what you do. That's why we got Idrissa Gueye, haven't we?
Absolutely.
For that.
Absolutely made up. He signed on, which was never in doubt. Paris FC was sniffing around him, and I was like, no.
It was. I think. If we get one more season the way he played last year,
his stats.
I'm happy with that.
Stats said it all.
Guy.
Yeah,
Stop-
yeah.
stop
You've got
us.
one of ours anyway, in Unana, who's just, you got a young one from
Yeah,
us at a
yeah.
cheap price of 50 mil, by the way.
I hope so. He was coming good end of last season, so I'm hoping he'll kick on now. So we'll have to see.
What about Boubacar Kamara? Because there was talk of him leaving a while back. Yeah.
If you want to hear it.
I've got to ask you before we go. I've got to get your point of view on that because you've had a previous. No, he's not going.
We don't talk about people.
Oh,
We do not talk about Boubacar Kamara. He's like he's the top secret. No, the whole bloody club. He's holding the whole club together. Boubacar Kamara. He's like, and he's not signed his new contract. And Villa fans are like this. Like, people go, oh, he's good at Boubacar Kamara. Everyone's like, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's no good. No.
Oh my days, yeah.
The guy is.
Brady and Ant were so glowing about him, and we've seen him, from highlights and stuff like that, what he brought. So me and Chris are fully aware of his capabilities and how good he was for you.
He is it. He's just the guy. He's amazing. Talk about Paul McGrath earlier. He's got the McGrath about him. He's so good. He's so good. And Villa fans are just like, we think if he leaves, it'll all just come crumbling down because we just desperate. Yeah, the reason why you don't hear about Boubacar Kamara is because we don't talk. First rule of Boubacar Kamara is you do not
top
talk
secret.
about him.
Yeah.
Top secret. Yeah, MI5 have got his contract. That's where that is. It's down in London somewhere in a vault, and no one's letting go of that.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
Sam, before we go, we've got to, as Chris said, play your song. So if you could plug the Villa song, please. True Adventures Up the Villa. Big plug for it. And I'm going to play a little 30-minute clip of the track for the viewers and listeners.
Floor is yours.
This is my song that I wrote, and it's called Up the Villa. And it is my tribute to the oldest and best club around.
Well, second.
That's up for debate. But here it is, Up the Villa. True Adventures. There we have it at the Villa. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Also available on Spotify. I found it on there. Available on all audio platforms, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, everywhere you can listen to it, it's there.
So you Villa fans, download it, listen to it, and you Brady, who are on the show quite regularly with us with Villa fans. Do Sam a justice here and download his song and play it every day until the Premier League starts and finishes.
That's it, and I will earn
20p. That's great.
Probably about enough to get a coffee, which is fine by me.
You're quite happy with that.
Yeah, I don't ask for much.
Sam, thank you so much for coming on, spending all this time with us as well. It's been amazing. Chris, brilliant finding Sam, of course, and getting him on. It's been brilliant.
I knew
Loved
instantly. It was just like when Luke Nilis, and I thought, this guy has got the same brain as us too. He's coming on. I'm getting him.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you having me on. Like I said, I can talk about this all day, so it's great. So, yeah, thanks very much for having me.
No problem at all, mate. And we'll get you back on into the season.
Yeah.
100%. We'll see how it's going. Be great to have you back on. And all the best to Villa in the season. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a top 6 and a Europa League win. That's what you're praying for. Also, just before we close out, the Sports Social Podcast Network, who we are affiliated with, it's more than 550 partners now. It's way into the 600s. It's got to be. Europe's largest sports podcast network, isn't it, Chris?
700 now, Stu.
700.
Yeah.
It's on the grow. It's mad. Under the Kosh are on there. So many of the big podcasts. The official Aston Villa podcast is with these guys as well. So they've got that, and they've got Wolves' podcast. Sorry, Sam, they've got their official podcast. So a big thank you to the Sports Social Podcast Network for all their help with us. Me and Chris appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
And if you have got a podcast, you're not with anybody, you're not affiliated with anyone, join these guys. They look after you. They put clips up. They've been amazing. They've been so good to us, and long may it continue.
And I've got this announcement. I'm just going to leave it at this because it's going to be a really good one to drop. The end of this month, yours truly is going to be a football scout.
Yes.
Ciao.
Yes. No, you can't leave it.
I know. I'll be very brief because she's going to beat me down if I am any longer. But yeah, I'm training to be a football scout from the end of this month, and hopefully,
Brilliant.
yeah. So hopefully, once everything's qualification wise, I'll move on with the company or with a club, wherever it may be.
It was made
Fantastic,
up for you the
well
other day
done.
when you told me. Amazing. All them years of Football Manager,
They're coming
Championship
clutch,
Manager.
then, mate. They're coming clutch. I told you my scouting system.
It's paid off. It's paid off. No, brilliant. Congratulations, mate. As I said
Appreciate it.
last week, amazing. Chuff for you. Chuff to bits for you. Truly am. So, yeah, there we are. Leaving it on a high note there, Chris. Football Scout. Amazing. We will see you next week for episode 69 of Football Then and Out, a nostalgic look at football. And we also blend in the modern topics and the modern goings on and the latest news into the show. Sam, thank you so much for coming on again.
No
and
worries.
We'll see you later on in the season. We will have you back on. And yeah, just amazing. Thank you so much, mate.
No worries. Thanks a lot.
Football Then and Now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.